Well, hello and happy new year, and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman at Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And happy new year, yes, and today we're back and we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 10th of January 2025. Including the new Channel 4 crime drama Patience and another side of Strictly star Pete Wicks in his new series Pete Wicks for Dog's Sake on You.
Yes, and we'll also be looking back at America's most infamous talk show in Jerry Springer, Fights, Camera, Action, which is on Netflix, and patrolling the mean streets of Long Beach, California in Prime Video cop drama on Cool. But Ian, what is in the news?
We had The Gentleman last year, didn't we? Now Paramount Plus have an as yet undertitled Guy Ritchie drama. It's going to star Tom Hardy as a fixer for a London-based Irish gang boss played by Pierce Brosnan. Yes. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Oh, I do love Pierce Brosnan. Yes, please. Right, enough of that. Well, in Prime Video's psychological thriller Silent River, John Krasinski and Matthew Rhys will play men whose worlds collide when a serial killer terrorises a small town in America.
It's the old story. Well, I think a very varied selection for you to kick off our New Year binge watch offerings. We're going to start on Channel 4. This has been heavily trailed. It landed on Wednesday, the 8th of January, as a box set on Channel 4 streaming. It's called Patience. And here's a clip.
Soldier, keep on marching on.
The young woman, she brought a file I didn't request. Her name's Patience.
Patience is autistic.
I need to find out and solve the case. Patience, you shouldn't be here. I just have a quick question. Found links to other cases. The only things that interest me are forensics and criminology. That's actually why I like puzzles so much.
So, crime drama, Hannah, set in York. Yes, it's about time we had a crime drama set in York, isn't it? It's a very beautiful city. It's a six-parter. And, well, it stars one of my favourites, Laura Fraser, who was she was in The Bay and many other things. She plays D.I.B. Metcalf. It also features Ella Maisy Purvis as Patience Evans, who is a young autistic woman who works in the Criminal Records Office. Yeah, so it's very much about neurodivergence. So I was thinking about what other shows have we had of a similar ilk. I suppose there's Ludwig with David Mitchell, the Scandi noir crime drama The Bridge, and of course the curious incident of the dog in the night. So Purvis is very good as Patience, who, because of the way her mind works, she's really good at spotting patterns and solving puzzles. So she's looking at all these records in the office and kind of making links that no one else has made between cases. So, of course, D.I. Metcalf thinks, wow, she could be an asset. But what's really good about it is they also show the side of autism, which is all about kind of feeling overwhelmed by too much kind of input, if you like, too much stimulus, whether it's noise or people or unfamiliar situations. And we learn a little bit about Patience's backstory, flashback to her childhood, and we meet her godfather, and we see her going to a sort of support group for people with autism. So the case itself that it starts with is also fascinating. So it's a man, spoiler alert, a man takes some money out from the cash point, chucks it in a bin. I mean, this is right at the very beginning, so I'm not really spoiling anything. And then sets fire to himself. So it's like, what the hell has happened here? Very mysterious case. And Patience finds a link to another case. I don't want to say any more because lots of interesting stuff starts to unfold. It's actually adapted from a French crime drama called Astrid and Raphael. You got Mark Benton in there as Bee's boss, DCI Calvin Baxter. It's good to see him in a straight role. He's very good. And they've made a point of casting neurodivergent actors in this. So it's filmed in York and Belgium. Also, Bee's son. Bee is not a very good mum. She didn't get custody of her son, who is 11. And you notice quite early on that her son looks as if he could have ADHD or autism. Anyway, I really liked it. I think both the female leads are extremely strong. And I immediately went straight onto episode 2. Did you like this, Hannah?
Do you know what? I did. It's a bit different, isn't it? I mean, I suppose in some degree it's really hard to make crime dramas particularly different to another one, but there is a real appetite, I think, for this kind of genre at the moment. And I think the kind of neurodivergency part of it is really interesting, particularly around women. And I mean, obviously, editing women's lifestyle magazines, we see this and hear this a lot of women kind of being pushed into, or trying to be fitted into a mold that doesn't really work, which is society. And women are really good at covering that up. And many aren't being sort of diagnosed till later in life. And I think that's quite an interesting twist on this. I also like the way perhaps it is down to the neurodivergency, I don't know, different way of coming into things, different way of looking things, her ability to recognise patterns of a criminal, which someone else might not see. So I do think in a kind of a genre that is really bursting at the seams at the moment, it's a bit different.
We're moving across to the streaming service You for our next offering, which arrives as a box set on Tuesday the 7th of January. It's Pete Wicks, For Dog's Sake. And here's a clip.
I'm Pete Wicks. You may have seen me on Strictly. Yep, now that. Puppies! But it's not dancing that's my biggest passion. It's dogs. And it always has been.
Hello. How are you?
These are my two, Eric and Peggy.
Little puppies? Yeah.
Throughout my life, dogs have always been there for me.
Well, of course, you Strictly fans out there will have enjoyed Pete dancing on the brilliant Strictly Come Dancing. And here he is in Pete Wicks, as you say, For Dog's Sake. And I've got to be honest with you, when you're going to watch this, please do make sure that you bring a box of tissues to the coffee table, because honestly, I was absolutely streaming, and not just the show, my eyes. And it's just, we all know that there's a real issue with dog trafficking, with dogs being dumped, overbreeding, cost of living crisis, people having to give up dogs. I mean, we all know, we're abundantly aware of it. If you're on social media, you can see it all the time. But this just brings all of that to life. It's incredible viewing because, or compulsive viewing, I would say, because you just want to keep watching it, even though, you're streaming, and you just want to help. Or if you're like me, you just want to help. I've already got 3 dogs. I can't help anymore. But, you just want to help. And Pete is actually really quite good in this. He doesn't sort of bring he's sort of a character that I'd imagine you don't think would break or sort of break down, and you see a real soft side to him. And in the first episode, you meet Murphy, Mel and Twist. Now, Mel is a really sad story, and I learned quite a lot from this actually, because she's a rescue poodle, and she was seized at the border, and she went on to have 10 puppies. Now, apparently this is a thing where the dog is brought over to have the puppies, and then the puppies are taken and sold. About 5 weeks later, the female dog is shipped back to where it came from and bred again. And this dog is just, she's just adorable. But over a certain period of time, she becomes so scared, and over time, more trusting. And you just think, gosh, what humans are doing to these animals. We're not really worthy of them. But I think it works really well. It feels like a real community. You see how this one's quite very well resourced. The kennels look amazing. 60 odd kennels, I think they have. But you also see the sad side of things where dogs don't quite make it, and also when owners are having to give up their animals when they just really don't want to. And this is all about rehoming them, making sure that these animals, once they've kind of passed their quarantine, that they're safe, that they're well, that they can go out and be rehomed. So it's really touching. I think Pete, I guess he is the presenter to a degree, although he shares it along with a lot of other people, but he is kind of the key person. I think he does really quite a good job of it, actually. And he shows a real side of him that perhaps we haven't seen before. What do you think, Ian?
I really enjoyed it. And it's very similar to the Paul O'Grady series, For the Love of Dogs. In fact, initially I thought, Pete Wicks is taking over that show. But no, it's different title, different show, but very similar subject matter. I didn't particularly warm to Pete Wicks on Strictly, I have to admit. But in this, I do think kind of the way people interact with pets kind of tells you a lot about them. And it's often people that don't connect particularly well with humans that have a really special bond with animals. And yeah, as you said, you see a different side of him in this. He's an absolute softie. And yeah, it's, anything to do with kids and animals, in trouble or in pain just gets the tears flowing, doesn't it? And there's one great moment in this which just totally triggered me, where one of the dogs is having an operation, and I think it's the anaesthetist is saying, he's dying, and the vet who's operating is saying, no, he's not. As if like, not today, not this dog, not today. And it's just, oh my God, I was in floods. But yeah, if you like dogs, it really is. It's a delight, but it's also, it's quite upsetting in places, but it's, really heartwarming as well. Over on Prime Video, arriving on Thursday the 9th of January, we have another new crime drama called On Call. And here's a clip.
He's my new trainee. Is he cool?
Jury's still out. I've got some people gunning for me. I don't want that coming off on you.
Know what they say about Harmon? Can't trust him.
You are either 100% with me or not.
There's no question. I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, I guess you might think, Hannah, another American crime drama about uniformed cops. Oh no, but let me say this is well worth checking out because it is quite different. So, the kind of training day trope of, the rookie with the veteran, that's what we're working on here. So the Good Doctor's Brandon Larcuente plays Alex Diaz, who is a rookie joining the force, and he's going to go out on patrol. And his mentor is going to be the officer Tracy Harmon, and she is played by Pretty Little Liars actor Troyan Belisario. So yeah, they're going on patrol in Long Beach, California. It's an 8-parter. So right from the off, we kind of get the impression that Harmon's fellow officers don't have great things to say about her. So she's a little bit isolated within the force. And, she's quite a sort of hard taskmaster with this young guy who's like very keen, but he's got a lot to learn. And so he has to kind of decide, well, am I going to commit to my mentor, or am I going to believe what I'm being told by the other officers? Anyway, what's quite different about it is they use body cam, because obviously police officers wear body cams these days. And so that's used to give it a really kind of immersive feel when there are like foot chases and so on. And it starts in very dramatic style where a female officer pulls a car over and is shot dead, and it's a shocking scene. And then that's kind of the case that starts. It's the search for the people who carried out that crime. So yeah, I wasn't expecting to really get into it, but I thought it was action packed, good characters, good dialogue, and filled in a slightly new way, which makes it feeling almost like a documentary style feel. So, yeah, I really liked this one. What did you think, Hannah?
It is different, isn't it? Going back to what we said at the beginning of the pod, it is different because it does feel much more like a kind of documentary, and that's really down to the body cam. And that, I think, is, like you say about that opening scene being really dramatic. I think that's because of the way it's literally been shot. It's completely different to many things that have gone before. I really enjoyed it, but I also like it when two people are kind of coupled up, if you like, or partnered up, and then one of them doesn't really trust the other person, so that you can see some really interesting relationships coming between them all, which I think is really, must be so true to life, because you might not be partnered with the person that you want to be, or with somebody whose morals and ethics that you agree with, but you would imagine in this world, in this area, you would be sort of governed by the law to a degree. But of course, how far are they working inside the law, to the edge of the law, or outside of the law? And I think it's really, it's good, and it is different. But the whole body cam stuff is just a really interesting way of coming at it.
We're going to finish over on Netflix with a 2-part documentary which arrived on Tuesday the 7th of January. It's called Jerry Springer, Fights, Camera, Action. And here's a clip.
Nothing like Jerry Springer had ever been seen before.
We wanted to create a new genre of talk show. Like this! Let's turn it upside down.
It was the inception of American shock culture.
Our show was chaos.
I hate you!
It was genius. The modern version of the Roman Colosseum.
Yeah, so when I saw this and I was reviewing this, it kind of made me think of like the whole Jeremy Kyle stuff that came out, because of course Jeremy Kyle was the British version, I guess, to a degree, of the Jerry Springer Show. Now, some of our younger listeners might not remember the Jerry Springer Show. I do, the latter years of it, and it was just that kind of tabloid television, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. And it just brought on all kind of people from society who had troubles, some of them arguably not well at all, and brought out in front of a camera and questioned and sort of Jerry Springer played the host, and they argued it might be an affair, or it might be, just think of Jeremy Kyle show on steroids is probably the best way to think of it. But this was something that they took a massive risk on. And it worked. It absolutely worked. I think it was the first show that really rivaled and outperformed Oprah, which was, pretty incredible. And it was outrageous. And this is a documentary, of which there are 2 episodes, and it delves into what happened backstage. It delves into how they managed to get that sort of content for the stage. And perhaps it's not quite as glamorous as, well, it didn't look very glamorous at the time, to be fair, but, perhaps it's not quite as it seems. And as I say, I referred to Jeremy Kyle, there were lots of news reports about that show. It eventually got taken off air. And in a similar vein, you've got first-hand interviews with people that were on the show, who can tell you exactly what happened. And it's not for the faint-hearted, really, is it, Ian? It's pretty awful in places. And the lengths that companies might go to for entertainment. And I'm just not sure it could or perhaps it does happen in its own way now, but it doesn't. Those kind of shows don't exist in quite the same way anymore. Maybe we're slightly more careful. I think there's a lot more work personally that needs to be done. But it's just a massive circus, and those people, however difficult their lives were, however it was them and us situation, you were watching them. They are human. They are people, and they have feelings. And it's left quite a few people pretty devastated. It's really, really interesting, I think, documentaries like this, seeing behind the curtain, I guess. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, it's good to look back on these things because I don't think at the time, I think people just loved the Jerry Springer Show. I mean, it ran for nearly 4,000 episodes between 1991 and 2018, but it really was like kind of zoo TV. It was sort of like a bear pit with all the audience all chanting, and then bringing on like episode 1. It's always, they have the subtitle up, I married a horse. And they bring on this guy who has married a horse and he's French kissing the horse. It's kind of a race to the bottom, really. But it was hugely popular. But they also mentioned that a couple who appeared on it died shortly after appearing on the show. So it's a dangerous game. And of course it had Jerry Springer as the host, who was a former mayor and had also been a news anchor. And he had this very kind of amiable, laid-back kind of presenting style, which kind of contrasted with the outrageous content of the show and the brawls, the onstage brawls, and you've got the security guys having to jump. They wanted people to fight, basically. That was for them. That was pushing the ratings on. And I must admit, quite a few of the people who are involved behind the scenes come across as quite seedy characters to me, and they're very unapologetic about the whole thing. So, but I remember it very well, and it's ironic that there was a musical called Jerry Springer the Opera, which was all about Jerry Springer, and that drew more complaints than the Jerry Springer Show. Just goes to show, doesn't it? Anyway, yeah, very entertaining. Whether you remember Jerry Springer or not, it's a good watch. Well, there are a few other highlights to pick out. Before we finish, Hannah, this week we have on Now TV, arriving on Saturday the 4th of January. Well, it's all about the darts at the moment, isn't it? And it's a documentary series called Dart Kings, featuring legendary players, including Bobby George. Remember him with all the jewellery? Also arriving on Saturday the 4th, on ITVX as a box set, you have North Shore, which is a crime drama set in Sydney, Australia, starring Joanne Froggatt. On Sunday the 5th, a box set on BBC iPlayer, we have the documentary series 7/7, the London bombings, looking back at the terrorist attacks of 2005. And on ITVX, it also arrived on Sunday the 5th of January, as a box set, the James Norton thriller Playing Nice, about babies mixed up at birth. Also on ITVX, arriving on Wednesday the 8th of January as a box set, Robson Green is back in a new series of Grantchester. On Netflix, arriving on Thursday the 9th of January, there's a western called American Primeval, in which a mother and her son trek across the wilderness in search of her husband. That stars Taylor Kitsch and, yes, Betty Gilpin again. Also on Netflix, arriving on Friday the 10th of January, we have Bank of Dave 2, The Lone Ranger. Yes, that's a sequel to the 2023 film starring Rory Kinnear as Dave Fishwick. It's a true story, because Dave set up his own bank, basically, took on the payday loan industry and won. And finally, listeners, you'll be pleased to hear, arriving on Now TV on Thursday the 9th of January, Far North, which is a fact-based comedy drama set in New Zealand about a couple who were caught up in a drugs bust. Yes, so those are all the things we didn't have time to preview, but are well worth taking a look at. Well, Hannah, because it's the first pod of 2025, let's take a moment to look back on our favourite shows of 2024. So, for my part, I really enjoyed Ripley, which starred the brilliant Andrew Scott and was, a take on Patricia Highsmith's The Talented Mr. Ripley. That was very, very good. And Anna Maxwell Martin, the brilliant Anna Maxwell Martin. And Sean Evans in the true crime drama Until I Kill You on ITVX, I thought was also an outstanding piece of work. What were your favourites from last year, Hannah?
Well, I've got to say Gavin and Stacey. I mean, that Christmas episode I just utterly loved, and it has sparked a binge on all of the originals, going right back to the beginning for some real classic Nessa comments. So that's absolutely brilliant. Also, Baby Reindeer, of course. You know, a lot of headlines came from that. Some good viewing there. And Yellowstone was 2024, wasn't it?
It was. And before yet 2024. I mean, it's been on for a while, hasn't it?
Mm.
Well, yes, and Baby Reindeer, I think, just won a Golden Globe, didn't it, for the lead actress in that?
It did.
Well, we've just got time, Hannah, to look ahead to what we're going to be talking about on next week's pod. So what's on the agenda, Brenda?
Well, Adam Scott returns in a second run of the Ben Stiller-directed workplace thriller Severance, which is on Apple TV+.
And a team of crime fighters search for a terrifying serial killer in Paramount Plus crime drama The Crow Girl, starring Eve Miles. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, listeners, Happy New Year and keep watching.